All right, make sure boys is in focus there. Make sure we all good. All right, welcome back to my channel, guys. My name is Grant, and here we talk about all things wholesaling, real estate, personal development, faith, and family. Now, today we're covering a very exciting topic, and that is the details of my very first deal. So without further ado, let's go ahead and jump right into it. All right, so the very first thing that you may be wondering is how much did I make on this deal, right? How much was my very first wholesale check? And rather than wait and keep it super suspenseful throughout the very end of the video, I'll go ahead and tell you how much I made up front. We can just get that out the way. I made $2,000, right? I have the check right here. I'll see if I'll include a photo. I don't know if it's gonna focus. I'm not gonna do the thing where I put it up to the camera and it doesn't focus. We're just gonna skip all that. But I made $2,000, and at the very end of the video, I'll show how everything worked out, how much was the offer, how much did we dispo it for, and we'll just go through all the numbers towards the end of the video. But first, we're gonna talk about how did I find this deal. All right, so the two things that we're gonna be covering first is how did I find this lead, right? What list did I get it from? And then what type of lead was it? Was it like a code call, like a bandit sign, text blasting, whatever it was, right? So let's go ahead and get into that. So the first thing is I did find this lead using texting, and I used Batch Leads for that. I used their platform and pretty much followed their recipe in order to get that. And the list that I pulled was also on Batch's system as well. And this was like a non-owner occupied. They had to have owned it for at least 10 or 12 years, 40% equity, and absentee owner. Basically, it's a tied landlord list, right? However you want to categorize it. That was the essential. That's what I was targeting: people who owned a property, who had maybe some equity also in the property as well, maybe considering getting rid of the property after they've owned it for 10, 15 years or so. So that's what I went after, and I used, like I said, Batch Leads in order to text them. That's how for the most part, that was how I qualified them, pre-screened them, was using Batch's system. We didn't actually hop on the phone until later, and we'll get into that in a little bit. Side note about Batch Leads, I really, this isn't of course, I'm not sponsored or anything by them, but the best thing about using Batch was how their whole system works together. So their list, their database in which you stack the list, and then also their text message system, it all plays together really well on the same platform / website. So it's really easy to find a property, to skip trace the property, to add it to your database, and then to also text them. They make it really seamless. The only caveat was it's a little pricey. Well, it's not super pricey, but if you're just getting started, it can be kind of pricey. And you can see all their information on the website, but I would definitely recommend it to anyone just getting started if you really do want to try out texting. And they give you a lot of tips and suggestions on how to have an effective texting campaign. That way you're ultimately going to get some really good success. So I would definitely check that out as well. I'll link them down in the description. All right, so something else that I want to touch on before we move on to the next section, which is how we got it under contract, and the negotiations and the numbers on the dispo side, is how wholesaling works in general is you have to solve a problem. So you have to be able to identify some motivation, some type of distress, some problem that you can solve as a wholesaler. Now, this particular problem that they had a personal / business loan that was a really high number, and the payments on that loan in conjunction with their mortgage on the rental property, I guess it was a lot, because although they had it rented, I think it might have been below market value. So sometimes they were either breaking even on the mortgage, or sometimes with repairs and just different expenses that are associated with having a rental property, they were coming out of pocket. So having those two things, and then also just the stress of maybe just COVID and everything, was their problem that we were able to solve. Right? So ultimately, this whole thing doesn't work if you don't have a problem to solve. If there isn't a reason for you, you have to be able to provide a solution to them. And that's what we're able to do here. So ultimately, they were able to sell their property at a discounted price in order for us to solve a problem for them and provide a solution. So these next three things can all be summed up, or I actually partnered with someone in order to get this done. So getting it under contract, negotiations, and then also dispoing the property. All three of these things were done by someone other than myself. So I opted to JV on this particular deal simply no other reason than it was my very first one, right? So I knew that I could do like the acquisition side of it, which is talking to the homeowner, talking to them about their property, qualifying them, being able to determine if it is a deal, if it isn't. I knew I could do that part. And then there's this whole other side, like getting it under contract, being able to dispose the property. So those things I needed help on. So I was able to reach out to someone here locally in my market, talk to him about the deal. He thought that it was also a deal, and we went from there. He actually called the homeowner after I kind of introduced them, and then from there he's able to negotiate with them a little bit more, actually quite a bit, and then also get it under contract, right? So we actually use his contract, because I'm just new to the whole contracting thing, and then also work with him on his buyers as well. I think that JVing with someone is it's an amazing way to get started into this game, because you're able to rely on someone else's knowledge and expertise, right? So you're able to access them, the things that they've messed up, things that they've dropped the ball on. You can avoid all of that by working with them, right? And you just split the profit, right? And your learning is increased drastically. Now, the cost of this learning was essentially $8,000. Now, we'll jump right into the numbers right now. So ultimately, when all the negotiating, everything was said and done, the homeowner agreed to let this home go for $215,000, and a hedge fund buyer purchased this property at $225. So there's about a $225,000 first off. So there's about a $10K, difference in between there. Now, originally we're looking at probably like a 5 and a 5K type of split between me and the JV partner. However, my JV partner, his buyer backed out at the last minute, and he had to hustle to find someone else to come in and still purchase the deal. Now, he solicited the help of someone else, right? A person who works locally in the market, who specializes in just disposing deals. That's all they do. They just dispose deals, and then they take a portion of the profit as well. So now we have me, we have my partner, the JV partner, and then we have the dispo person as well. So that person gets a cut, the JV person gets a cut, and then I get a cut. So when everything works out and everything's all said and done, the dispo guy got $4,000, my JV partner got $4,000, and then I got $2,000. So that was essentially an $8,000 lesson on basically just trying to. The lesson that I learned was it's really important to have and to build out a really strong qualified buyers list, right? Having your own buyers list, I would have been able to dispose that property myself, or I could have provided another alternative for my JV partner to work with. That way we wouldn't both have to take a bit of a pay cut. I was okay with only getting $2,000, mostly because this is my very first deal. And ultimately, I'm going to build upon that. I'm not, eating and surviving off of that money. It's more so just going back into the business and just want to reinvest it. But it was a great lesson to learn. So best believe this time or the next go around on my next deal, I'm going to have a built-out buyers list close to about 1,000 buyers or so. And then I also work harder to dispose the deal, right? That's super important. Being able to sell a deal is an entire skill on its own. Ultimately, guys, if I could give you one bit of advice, one thing that you can actually take away from this video and go in and actually apply in your business today, that would be constantly work on two things, right? One, work on your buyers list. We just kind of touched on that. Work on your buyers list. Constantly network, ask people, talk to them about their buyers list, talk with other buyers, talk with your title companies, talk with realtors. Find ways to consistently add and remove unqualified and add qualified buyers, right? Being able to have a buyer will get you out of a crunch. It'll help you make more money. I've heard on different podcasts and different videos that I've watched that sometimes you can have what people call a pocket buyers, or just 3, 4, or 5 buyers that you consistently work with, who you can count on to purchase your deals. But ultimately, your job is to get the highest and best offer, right? And that may not be your normal 5 or 6, guys that you work with. So being able to go out to actively build your buyers list, and then also to remove those individuals who aren't qualified, can only help you. It can only help you. I know it's kind of time consuming, but ultimately, it can be the difference between a 5K deal or a 2K deal up to like $8,000, right? $10,000, $20,000. It can make a big difference. And then the next thing I would say is on your marketing side of things, just remain super consistent. Whatever marketing method you want to use, whether it's bandit signs, whether it's texting, cold calling, whatever you want to do, just be very consistent. try to do it for at least 3 to 6 months before you decide to change if it's not working. Probably around that 90-day mark is when you'll determine, hey, this isn't working, or hey, this is working. But give it some time and just be super consistent. It doesn't matter even the amount, if you're doing a lot of texting or a little texting or a lot of calls or a little calls. Whatever you want to do, just do it consistently, right? Whether it's calling for an hour a day, call every day for an hour, or for just 5 hours or 3 hours, call every day. Make up your mind and decide to go out there and get it, guys. So what's next? I'll just kind of give you all the information, all the breakdown, right? So ultimately, I made the $2,000. About 1,000 or so of that 1,200 has to go to like family stuff, right? Taking care of some things on the personal side. So it leaves me with about 800 or like it was $800 or $900, I think. Is actually going to go back to the business. We're going to use that $8,000 or $9,000. I was able to save some more money from a photography gig that I did, throw in a couple extra $100. So I think right now, the real estate account is at like $1,100 or so, maybe a little bit less. And then also have some more money coming in from another gig that I'm gonna do, some more savings. So we'll bump it up to about like $2,000 or so, which is where it'll be at here in the next couple of days. So the plan is to turn that $2,000 into $20,000, right? That's the plan, right? We want to implement some new marketing methods. Not necessarily even new marketing methods, but we're just going to really double down on some things, work on the script, work on my cold calling skills, also the texting. And we're planning to implement some things over the next 3 to 4 or 5 months or so and turn that $2,000 into $20,000. And we'll be documenting the entire journey here on YouTube. That way you all can see. If anyone out there in the YouTube world has any comments, any suggestions, any feedback, I'd love to hear it as well. We can get on this journey together. All right, guys, before we end this video, I'm super big into like quotes and like personal development and like positivity. So each video we're going to end with or start with a quote. So today's quote is, "Nothing can stop the man with the right mental attitude from achieving his goal, and nothing on earth can help the man with the wrong mental attitude." So guys, go out, be positive, take action, do your thing, ball out, go ahead, kill it. It's 2021. And let's go ahead and get started, guys. Until next time, see you in the next video. All right, get that guy in focus. Make sure you know like super personal information on here. Okay, let's cover that guy up. There we go. So then here, guys, you can see if she'll focus.